Hello, everyone. It's time for Van Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. I'm your host, Pete Costanis. This is episode 422, season 17. Today's date is April 5th, 2025, and welcome to the show. On today's program, I'm going to talk about something very interesting. It might interest a lot of people and you. My memories of watching the Chicago Cubs in the 1970s on WGN TV. So I have a lot of memories watching that. Also, I'll talk about my memories of a game that I had when I was a kid. It was called Toss Across. It was from Ideal Toys. I'm going to talk about that. And so this will be a fun show. Before I get started, we will go into a commercial break. And this program is brought to you by Meineke Car Center shops. Meineke's still in business, but this particular commercial, this is from 1986. It is hilarious. And if I mention the line in the commercial, you will remember it. It says, "I'm not going to pay a lot for this muffler." So I'm going to play that. And when I come back, I'll start the show. So sit back and relax, and let's go back to the 1980s for this commercial from 1986, Meineke. Thank you.
When you come to Meineke Discount Mufflers, relax.
I'm not going to pay a lot for this muffler.
You're not going to pay a lot for your muffler.
I'm not going to pay a lot for this muffler.
I'm not going to pay a lot for this muffler.
Meineke's the nation's discount muffler leader. We'll fix your car the right way at the right price from $18.93 installed.
Oh, I'm not going to pay a lot for this muffler.
You're not going to pay a lot at Meineke.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the commercial for Meineke Car Center shops. Actually, it was Meineke Mufflers. Oh, if you have to watch the commercial on YouTube. It's there. I'll explain. When you started listening to that, first there was this rustler, and he goes, "I'm not going to pay a lot for this muffler," and he goes, "No!" and he's yelling at the employee at the store, and he's shaking, and he's scared. Then the next scene is some overweight guy. He looked like a construction worker. He crashes through the bricks of the place instead of the going through the front door. That part is hilarious. And he goes, "I'm not going to pay a lot for this muffler," and all that. And then there was a third one, and he was very quiet and all that. They showed this commercial during the 80s, prime time, and local TV, Channel 9, Channel 32, in Chicago. It's hilarious, and me and my brothers love it. And it's very memorable. I still laugh about it. It is hilarious. It really is. It's so funny. As for Meineke, it's still around. It's still in business. Yeah, I've never been there. I never took my car to have serviced there. I don't know how it is. Is it good? I don't know. We'll see. But I guess it is. So I don't know when it started. Probably in the 80s, early 80s, I imagine. I don't know. So that's one of the funniest commercials from the 1980s on local TV. That was great. All right. At the beginning of the program, I mentioned I'm going to talk about my memories of the Chicago Cubs in the 1970s, watching on WGN TV, Channel 9 in Chicago. Also, I'll talk about my other memories of the game Toss Across. That was from Ideal Toys. That was in the 1970s as well. Before I get started, I'll give you a quick health update. Everything's okay. I had no doctor appointments. I will have one on April 10th, the sixth session of chemo. We'll see how that goes. And so after that, so I have a total of 10. I will see my urologist on the 17th. He's going to check me over to see, because I had an operation. I'm going to talk to him. I think I have another appointment with a regular doctor sometime this month, so we'll see about that. let's see what else. So tomorrow, I will probably do a podcast, and I'll talk about my 5th anniversary of when I had my surgery, when they removed the prostate. It was in 2020, April 6th. I'll never forget that day. It was very memorable, very crazy, and very frightening. Not because of surgery, but what was going on at that time. So I'll explain that on tomorrow's podcast. If not, then probably Tuesday. So we'll see. Okay? All right. So let's get started. For the Chicago Cubs during the 1970s. You know, when I could remember as far back as a little boy, you know, I started watching television at an early age. You know, I watched reruns, and I remember my first show when I was little, probably about 3 or 4. I was watching a rerun of I Love Lucy on Channel 9 in the morning, like 9 o'clock in the morning. And I remember watching that. That was my first memory. And then, of course, Bozo's Circus came, which was aired on 12 o'clock at noon on Channel 9. And I remember watching it, and I was mesmerized. I was glued to that set. When I started going to, what was it called? Nursery school? No, kindergarten. I'm sorry. Yeah, nursery school and kindergarten. I lived in South Shore, and we had like a half a day. When I came home, I raced to the TV, turned on Bozo's Circus. My mom got mad at me. Still is. And and then, you know, I had lunch, and that was a great memory of that. Also, this is during the spring and the summer and the fall, right after Bozo's Circus, they had baseball on Channel 9. You know, I was little. I didn't understand it. You know, so there was no one to ask. My father wasn't there. He worked at nights. So, but he was sleeping most of the morning. And my mom had no clue about baseball. So I started watching it and trying to understand it. And I remember they had the first thing you see watching the Cubs on Channel 9 is the leadoff man. And I remember the graphics on the screen like that. And it would be Jack Burkhouse. I don't know who the other announcer was at the time. It would explain, you know, the Cubs will play this team today. They start about 1:20, like they always have for many years. You know, the Chicago Cubs started broadcasting on Channel 9 way back in 1948. That's when the station went on the air. It was like almost immediately. And so I remember that. And then as I grew older, I saw, I noticed that sometimes they played early. You know, they had double headers. And so they had the leadoff man, and then they had the game. And the game would end about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I remember that the reruns, TV reruns that aired after that, usually was Gilligan's Island, or maybe McHale's Navy, or the Flintstones. They would show that. If there was a game on, and I came home from school, I mean, I wasn't interested in the baseball. So, yeah, I forgot to mention that. You know, I'm not much of a baseball fan. You know, I don't watch it on TV as much. My brother he's huge, but he's a White Sox fan. Okay. So, but he'll watch a Cubs game, you know, because he likes baseball. Anyway, so instead of baseball, when I was growing up, I would turn over and watch Channel 32 and watch shows like that. They had Felix the Cat, they had Speed Racer, and Magilla Gorilla, and the Banana Splits. And also they had Channel 44. Yeah. They had that. They had great reruns. Watching that, I remember the Munsters. They had what else? Leave It to Beaver, Superman. They had Popeye with Stephen Hart. I ought to talk about that show. You know, if you remember him, he had a dummy, you know, ventriloquist. That'd be interesting. Also, then I would switch, but sometimes they had the White Sox. But, you know, sometimes the White Sox played at night. They did that. So did the Cubs. They did too. Anyway, so my memories of watching the Chicago Cubs, which is very strange to me, is the commercials. And so the ones I remember most, of course, was Hamm's Beer. They would play that. I think they started it in the 60s, I believe. And some were black and white. Then they turned into color, and that was big. So that made that beer very popular indeed. And as I got older, I tried Hamm's. It wasn't bad. It's still sold to this day. But it's not widely distributed. You don't really see it. I mean, I don't know if it tastes the same. I haven't had it in years. I don't know. So they advertise Hamm's beer. Another commercial they aired most was Household Finance. You remember the HFC logo? Oh, they advertise that all the time. Like that. I believe it or not, I worked for that company. That was their headquarters up in Wooddale in the 80s. It was called Household Financial. It was a good company, but, it was a temporary job, and I didn't do very well. I didn't get along with the people. They didn't like me. I didn't like them, and I got fired. Thank God. It was humiliating at first, but it was good, And besides, the commute was too long. I don't know. I never worked at a company that had a lot of hate, I think the reason was, I worked at a department that were all women, and then I was the only man, and they felt threatened. It's kind of silly to me. I just ignored it. I'm glad of that. But I found other jobs, and they were much better and well suited for me. Okay. Anyway, excuse me. So I remember HFC. I remember they were like little storefronts. They had the sign over there. I think it's still in business, but I think HFC disappeared probably in the 80s or something, or 90s. I don't know. Another commercial I remember watching was, what was it? Union 76, the gas station. And it's still around. You see some of them, but they disappeared in the Chicagoland area a while back. Excuse me. And then they advertised it with Murph. Remember that guy? And I remember the balls you would put on your car antennas. You do that, you put it there. That was kind of cool. I did a podcast episode about that a long time ago. There were other commercials that were, someone mentioned yesterday Danley's Garage. Do you remember that? But that came much later. They really did. So, yeah. And then someone asked me, well, since you're going to talk about the Chicago Cubs in the 1970s, why don't you talk about the White Sox in the 70s with Harry Carey on Channel 44? I will do that. I will do that soon. So that'll be kind of fun. What I remember most of the time when I watched the games, Jack Brickhouse was announcing, and then whenever someone hit a home run, he'd go, hey, hey. That was his trademark. He seemed like a nice guy. He's a very nice man, and Jack Brickhouse was WGN Chicago Cubs. That's it. When you think of him, he's so associated with that, And as time went on, the Cubs didn't do very well until later on they got good. And then in 2016, they won the World Series. I remember that day. I was at my computer. My whole family was watching, That was very tense. That was a tense evening. It really was. Oh, you feel like your anxiety is going, ooh. It's like, oh my God. I can understand being excited, but it was very tense, but they did win, and it was a great day. And, next day they celebrated, and people didn't stop talking about it. And a lot of Cub fans were just in seventh heaven. They were just so happy, jumping up and down, yelling. That's wonderful. Just like when the White Sox won the World Series, like in 2005, I believe. So, anyway, so that's wonderful. That really is, and I'm very happy for them. But ever since then, they haven't won anything. So yesterday they played their game opener, okay, and they did win, which is wonderful. They're very happy. You know what's funny? I don't know if you've seen this. When I watch TV and like people get excited, and even by the playoffs, and then they lose, and then you see all the fans, with their heads down, walking out quietly, like it was like a funeral. I don't mean to make fun of them, but that's what I see. And, they get all excited and then like that. That happened to me in the office when I worked at American Express. One of the teams, I forgot, they were in the playoffs and they had a chance to, go to the World Series. They didn't. And the next day when I went to work, people were so quiet. They didn't talk. It was bizarre. It really was bizarre like that. So that's my memories of the Chicago Cubs in the 1970s, And one last thing about that, I did go to a game. I did. I worked at American Express Travel a long time ago. Budget Rent-A-Car, that was one of our sponsors. That was like one of our accounts that we booked the cars over there in the travel agency. Had free tickets. And my boss asked me, "Do you want to go to the game?" And I said, "Oh, can I go?" She goes, "Yeah, go ahead." And she asked me, "Have you been there before?" "No, never." "Then you should go. You should go." I said, "Okay, I'll go." So I went with a group of people. We took a bus or something, and we went to Wrigley Field. First time at Wrigley Field. First time. We had some lunch, very good lunch, I think at the Stadium Club. I think that's what it's called. I'm not sure what it was called. And we had lunch, and we went to the bleachers. We sat down, and I had a great time. I watched the game live right in front of me. That was fun. Watching on TV is kind of dull because the sportscasters are talking, and they got the commercials. It's not the same being there. No, anyone can tell you that. And that was the best time of my life. And if someone invites me to come to a game, not just at Wrigley Field, with the Chicago Bulls, the Bears, the White Sox, the Hawks, yeah, I'll say yes, because there's nothing being there at an arena watching it live while they're playing. It's one of a kind. It really is. So one last thing I'll tell. I hope the Cubs do well this season. I hope all sports teams do, in Chicago. I hope so. Okay. All right. Right now, I'm going to talk about the Toss Across game. Before I do, I'm going to play a commercial for Toss Across from Ideal Toys. This is from the early 1970s. Could be 69, 70. I remember this very well. So I'm going to play that right now. And when I come back after the commercial, I will talk about my memories of that game. So sit back and relax, and I'll be right back with the rest of the show, folks. Thank you.
It's Toss Across. You play it like tic-tac-toe, but you toss.
We've got him now. Oh, yeah?
Attaboy.
You never know who's the winner until the very last toss.
Hey, Brickman!
Toss Across from Ideal.
Okay, everyone, I am back. I hope you enjoyed the commercial for Toss Across. That's from Ideal Toys. Let me describe the commercial first, and I'll talk about the history of that. That's with it's all set in a living room of someone's house. There was a family there, mother, father, son, and daughter, and they're playing Toss Across. Guys versus the girls. That's what it was. And So they tried that, and then all of a sudden, in the commercial, their dog picks up a beanbag and hits a slot, and then the X's won. I don't know how they trained that dog to do that, so it's kind of funny. That was so memorable. You can watch the commercial on YouTube. It is there, if you like. But I remember seeing the commercials when I was little, during Bozo's Circus, maybe Ray Rayner or Garfield Goose on Channel 9, and probably in the afternoon. Television was great back then. It really was. Okay. Also want to mention one more thing. This past week was the 70th anniversary of Garfield Goose and Friends that premiered on WGN. They were on other channel. It was on another channel. They started in 1953. It was on WBKB, and it was Channel 4. A lot of people say, "Oh, that didn't exist." Oh, yes, it did. It was there. And then they moved to channels. WBKB moved to Channel 7 from Channel 4, and then Channel 4 turned into Channel 2. That's kind of confusing. But it was only there 1 year. Then they moved to WGN, and it was there from 1955 all the way to 76 or something like that. So 1976. So it was there for over 20 years. For 20 years. Fraser Thomas hosted that show with Garfield Goose and his friends, Romberg Rabbit, Beauregard. Do you remember him? Do you know the saying that do you remember what he said to wake him up? Hot dogs, hamburgers, spaghetti, and meatballs. And his eyes were open. That's kind of cute. And so that was a fun show. I love that show. I've talked about it many times, So a lot of people shared their memories of the show. Okay. Now let's go back to Toss Across. I'll give you a history of this game. It was first introduced in 1969, and it was designed by Marvin Glass and Associates. He was a toy designer. He also designed Simon, also Mr. Machine, and Rock'em Sock'em Robots. I don't want to talk about that. It was from Ideal Toys. Now, it's still being made by Mattel. So the object of the game is, it's like tic-tac-toe, only you use beanbags and you stand far away, at a line. So you can toss the beanbags and hit a slot. And then sometimes you don't always hit, but you can always miss, and it'll probably land next to it on the floor. So you tried the best like that. And includes 6 beanbags to each player, like that. And, I had this game. My mom bought it for me at Gately's People Store in Roseland. We lived there in the early 70s. It was a great game. Me and my brothers played for a little while, then we got tired of it, and then we got rid of it. But my favorite game of Ideal Toys was Kerplunk. I love that game. With the marbles and the sticks. So you pour the marbles in, you pull the sticks out very carefully. The object of the game is if you trying to get all the marbles and see what side they were numbered like that. And you would win. So it was Kerplunk. I talked about that game before on the podcast. Anyway, Toss Across is still being made, by Mattel. I mentioned that. Would kids play today? I don't know. Maybe. Everything's electronic. Now you can play tic-tac-toe on your computer, on your phone, your iPad, your tablet. So I like to play physical games, like board games. You understand? So, and kids today should, it's very convenient to play on computers. It's not really that fun, really. It is, but you have to do it like live and physically to play that. I would. So Toss Across was a very great game. It was a lot of fun. And, of course, the commercial was memorable. It really was. Okay. So that's it for our show. I will do a recap of what I talked about. I talked about the my memories of watching the Chicago Cubs in the 1970s on TV, on WGN TV, Channel 9 in Chicago. Also, my memories of the game Toss Across that was from Ideal Toys. Yeah. All right. So this podcast will be published later on today, wherever podcasts are found on any apps, like, for example, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Amazon Music, Breaker, Overcast, also Radio TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and also, what's the other one? Can't think of it. Good Pods. If you had those apps, there's a lot of apps for podcasts. There's a lot of them. Also, it'll be published on my blog, vanchicagoland.blog. They're all listed there. You can click on the link. It'll take you to Spotify, and you can listen. With those apps, you can tap on them and tap follow. You'll receive a notification of the latest episode. You can listen to the previous episodes. They're all there if you'd like. Same thing with the blog. Also be published, it'll be uploaded on my YouTube channel, Van Chicagoland Stories. If you, again and again, people ask me, where do I find your podcast? Where do I find your podcast? You can find it on YouTube. Do a search, Van Chicagoland Stories. Or my name, Pete Costanis. You will find it. Click subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. You can listen to previous episodes if you like. And, you receive a notification on your phone or your tablet or your computer. So people still ask me. I send them the link, because they're intrigued by this. Also be shared on my social media accounts, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Reddit, Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. I heard TikTok's being saved. That's good. Not much. I just look at the videos. That's what I do. But it is there. So you copy the links of those, and it'll take you right there, and you can listen. Some people like Apple Podcasts. It's right there. It's an easy app, and you can just listen. Okay. So this is Pete Costanis, your host of Van Chicagoland Stories, the podcast. Thank you for joining me. Today is not a bad day. Will I do another podcast tomorrow? Probably, yeah. And it'll be a special episode. I'm looking forward to that. It'll be a lot of fun. And so here's bye-bye from me, and here's a little traveling music from our favorite person in the whole wide world, a Chicago legend, Ray Rayner, saying bye, bye, bye. Take care, everyone, and so long.
We have to go. Bye, bye, bye.